Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Daily Rundown with me, Tara Donlan. We're going to be chatting all about the big news stories. We're going to be talking about Brexit, Britain leaving the EU, England leaving the Euros, and Jeremy Corbyn refusing to leave. He's still holding on in there. But before we do that, let me introduce my wonderful guests for the evening. Okay, it's stand-up comedian and regular guest on the Daily Rundown. It's Stephen Armstrong.
Hello. Thank you very much. That's a warm welcome to an even warmer room. Yeah, it's fantastic to be here.
And his special yellow T-shirt.
Yeah.
It's tropical in here tonight,
guys. Yes, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
And our second guest tonight, we have editor of The Creative Tourist, Polly Chaplin-Harding. You ever got that right?
Yeah. Long name. Sorry about that.
Long name, but it's fine. Don't forget, you can also get involved with the programme at home here tonight by tweeting us at the Daily Rundown. Go on, you might as well. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah. And we're going to keep us company on the sofa. Okay, the European Parliament's first debate on the UK's vote to leave the UK has been marked by bitter exchanges. UKIP leader Nigel Farage was booed, called a liar and accused of using Nazi propaganda. Farage hit back, saying Parliament were in denial and that hardly any of the MEPs had done a proper job in their lives or even created one. That's tough words. Meanwhile, the German Vice-Chancellor criticised David Cameron, saying he ran an awful campaign in the run-up to the election. Mr Cameron arrived at the summit at lunchtime and told reporters he hopes we'll seek the closest possible relationships with Europe despite withdrawing from the EU. The fallout from the Brexit continues. So what do we all think about today's summit? Polly?
I think it's really interesting because it feels like we're starting to get a picture of where Europe is on the UK leaving. So I don't know about you guys, but my Facebook feed has been full of what my kind of friends feel about this. And
everyone feels.
Yeah, everyone is having their word on there. And I think that's right because it's a really big decision. But I think we're starting to get an idea of how this is going to land now in Europe. And the thing that kind of really stuck out for me was the fact that the kind of cheery messages that we've been getting from Johnson, in particular, Boris Johnson, are not really being reflected, I think, amongst European politicians. Angela Merkel saying that Britain is going to face concessions if they want to be part of the free market. They are not going to be able to restrict freedom of movement, which is a big issue for the Leave campaigners. So yeah, I thought it was quite interesting.
I think that the Leave campaigners I think, first of all, I think Boris Johnson personally is pro-Europe. I think what he's actually done is just, David Cameron is, with one fell swoop, has managed to both see the beginning and the end of Boris Johnson as a political power. I just think that, as he says, we kind of get to a point now where we're seeing how Europe are reacting, and now I can't speak for either of you two lovely ladies, but my relationship and movie watching history leads me to believe that if you get divorced from 27 people, some of them are not going to be that pleased with being divorced. It's, the analogy I use is like, it's like we've divorced 27 partners, we've given them all the knives, and we're just hoping that in the 2 years it takes us to get to the front door, one of them doesn't stick it in the back of us.
Yeah.
I mean,
they promised me they play nice.
Well, exactly.
You know, we're splitting up the furniture and the crockery.
That's it. I mean,
they said I'm always welcome at their house.
Farage is hardly helping, though. I mean, he's rubbing salt in the wound. He's been unbelievably rude. If you wanted a happy divorce, Farage is not the person to send into.
No, I mean, Nigel Farage. I mean, my grandfather used to have a phrase. He used to say that some people only open their mouths to change feet. Because, as in, like, they put a foot in their mouth. Because I think from a man who started off by describing this as a revolution without a shot being fired, which is just the most disgraceful thing, he then described it as a victory for good, honest, decent people. And he stood in a room full of people who were employed, he himself being employed, and suggested that none of them have created a job. Now he just needs a proper job. He's a trader, which, you know, again, some folks don't have that higher opinion of traders. You know, some people who have seen Wolf of Wall Street and have had experiences of financial breakdowns and all this kind of stuff. It is very much like this was always going to be a messy process, and I think that there is a will within Europe to make this work. But I think that the two things is we're finally getting explained to us I believe I was under the understanding anyways that you can't have trade without free movement. No. You have to have one or the other. Or free movement of labour certainly. Exactly. And it just seems like it's been a lot of mess. Yeah. And it seems like, well, see, I'm a vengeful little person, so I understand the fact that it makes sense to me that we're going to make it has to be in a way. I mean, some of the French friends of mine have said that in a way we need to suffer, because if we don't suffer, then other people might think that this is a great idea to come out of this. I'm not saying that they want us to suffer badly. I think Angela Merkel, who seems to be more balanced than Herr Rompuy, or who want it immediately. I think Angela Merkel sees the interest in the fact that there's no point in Europe making us suffer too much, but if we don't have to take a little bit of the tough stick, then it might be that other countries might say, well, what's the point? And for me, I don't want us to hurt, but you know, maybe a little bit of a chafe. You know,
a chafe, but I don't want a sort of recession or.
No, but that's already.
Literally, we just get out of one and we're back with bats like snakes and ladders.
I think the European Parliament is now in an extremely difficult position where we are a strong ally, and there's talks of a friendly, a kind of friendly relationship, of potentially a kind of special relationship with Europe. But as you say, they're having to work against the entire disintegration of Europe as a concept, and I think that's really problematic. I also think that the way in which the European politicians are coming out now and sort of talking about these kind of the things that Boris Johnson, for instance, rode in on the idea that we can stay part of the free market, but we can get control of our borders back. And the fact that they're coming out and saying, no, actually that's not true, it just bears out the kind of misleading campaign that was led, because would it really have, you know, can you really believe that those conversations wouldn't have been had between Westminster and the European counterparts? And I just don't believe they weren't.
Everyone was saying, you know, the people that were for us going and for us staying, how much truth were we ever provided with? Everyone's been backtracking all over the show. Yeah.
I mean, Farage, the NHS claim, I think the one that's gained the most attention because it was a really big thing for. I mean, they put it on the side of a bus, for God's sake.
Yeah, I think though that what we've seen is in each side they've just picked off each other, because I think that Nigel Farage is, as much as I've explained how much I find him a terrible waste of sentience, but but he's just a waste of sentience.
He's byline.
But he didn't. It wasn't his bus, so it's almost like everybody's dropping little sort of hand grenades in their own parties, because he knew what he was doing when he said, "I'm not." That's a mistake. That was a mistake. That 350 million. He could make that comment because it wasn't his bus that it was on the side of. They didn't let him into his party. They didn't let him into their party. So now he's like, well, I can drop this little hand grenade with you. And it's been hand grenades dropped everywhere. If you look at some of the words that are coming out of, I forget the gentleman's first name, but I think he's called Dominic Cummings, who has suggested that I mean, there's a video of him being interviewed by a Treasury committee, and it's so embarrassing. Yeah,
the leader of the
leader of the campaign. Who describes some very nasty people.
It's quite an amazing interview. He is unbelievably rude. He tries to read over the guy's shoulder. He won't turn his phone off. There's a phrase that's on the Guardian article about this that I'm not even sure if I can repeat.
No, I don't think we can.
We don't
he doesn't have a high opinion of experts or of people who kind of tend to know what they're talking about. It is a very much like, I think, but even if you look at David Cameron, the suggestion that immediately after he resigned he went back in and he went, well, you know, and again using a word that we can't use on this, is suggested he wasn't available for doing the heavy lifting of this job. It's like we On the way here, again, because I happen to be slightly hungry and I like a pun, I discovered that this country, we've rejected EU politics, but seem to have accepted S&M politics, because that's what it is this morning. We've got lots of people who are wanting to hurt. It seems that internally this country is not just this country, but across the continent, there's lots of little fractures, but with the vast majority of good people want to make this work. And I think that we are seeing something that I don't think we've seen in this country. We've got the two major parties who are melting down. We've got all of these things that are happening. It seems that everything's all happening at once, and it feels maybe this is a little bit like, maybe this is like the rainstorm at the end of the thunder, just to clear it all out, and on the other side we'll have a fresh, brave new world where
on our own.
well, that's it. Where everybody will be nice to everybody, and everybody will give each other tea and biscuits. And
I love that idea.
That's what we're going
I'm
for.
not sure it's possible.
No, but let's hope in this studio, until we depart the studio.
Again.
Yes, make Britain a great cup of tea.
It's actually a bit of a hard thing to say. Right, well, it seems that we've got lots to say on this, so we are going to go for a quick break, but the three of us will be back in a few minutes, so you want to make sure you want to tune in. We've got some great stories coming up.